Thakur, Ma and Swamiji, and Bhakta Vrindebha, see, this is pranams to Bhakta Vrindas, and special, say, my regards and love for Sandatmanandaji for giving me this opportunity to be here on the Tithi Puja day. You see, I don't speak Hindi, but you see, I have a general comprehension. He was talking about the Rasik scavenger, see, who received the special grace of Sri Ramakrishna. Then he talked about, yes, in Ramakrishna's language, Vyakulata, yearning for God. And then he accented upon the necessity of doing the spiritual practice. These are very important things. But today I propose that we go through, in a general way, the life of Sri Ramakrishna, and then we shall come to his teachings and some particularities in his teachings. Now, you know that his birth was very unusual. He himself says that my ancestors, he says Bapera, that means fathers, uncles, etc., they used to know who is there inside this place. You see, he's saying this in the Kathamrita. 9th August 1885, his speech recorded that he's saying that they used to know who is there. And he's saying that my father went to Gaya, and where Raghubira appeared in the dream and said that I would like to be born as your child. And then you know what happened to his mother, how she conceived in a very unusual way. So, see, when we read in the Gospels, see, especially Luke's Gospel, there we find that it's a little comparatively detailed your description of how Mother Mary, Virgin Mary, she conceived, you see. And there is similarity between these things. That means, you see, in their culture, it is an angel which came and announced all these things to Mother Mary. Here it is another thing in another way. But that is, you see, about gospel, what is said in the gospel, we are not quite sure. Because the writers of the gospel, they are coming, you see, a little later than when Jesus was there. Here, in this case, it is, you see, the people who still lived at that time, they gave witness, and this is being recorded. So it is something else. And we can, so this unusual birth, so here was a human being, so at least he appeared as a human being, and it is totally unusual. Then his janma and then karma. You see, up to his, you see, if you can divide his life, say up to his 19th year, you see, even as a child, you see, normally child, you see, up to 12th year, normally one says that it is childhood. So in his childhood, he had thrice, you see, thrice different types of God absorption. You see, at the age of 6 or 7, then, you see, about 2 years later, you see, and then at the age of 11 or 12, he says, and, hello, do you hear me? Okay. So, and he himself says that when at the third time it happened, from then onwards I became altogether a different person. That means after you see, 2 other your experiences, he was still a small child, so he was not, you see, quite different from other children around him. But from the third onwards, he himself says that I become altogether a different person. That means you see, he knew his path, his goal, which he would declare a few years later at Jhamapukur quarter of Calcutta, where he was brought by his elder brother, you see, because he was worried that the boy is getting too much of indulgence at his home, and he was neglecting his studies, and that will, you see, be a problem in his future. But then the answer he gave to his elder brother, it is you see, in English translation, it is translated, I am not interested in the breadwinning education. But in, you see, Bengali, he used a very caustic language. You see, if you translate it, it would be like this: I am not interested in that kind of education which makes a person fit to bundle up rice and banana. A great dig at you see, what priests normally are doing. You see. So that he said, and then when, you see, 1855, you see, he was there at the great ceremony of the inauguration of the temple. It was a very posh temple in that whole eastern part of India, you see, and a huge amount of money, you see. I know, I have seen a newspaper report that on that day, among many other items, just this sweet called sandesh, that was, you see, distributed totally 19 tons. I have seen it in the newspaper report. Just imagine, in those days, there was no Holstein cow there, you see. But still then, 19 tons of sandesh. I am not speaking of other items. You can imagine what a big thing was there, you see. But we are talking about Ramakrishna. He did not quite, you see, appreciate it or participate it in that fully, because he was a little worried. Why should his brother should take up the job of priesthood, you see. Anyhow, you know that story, you see, and he himself had to take up with great hesitation priesthood the next year, 1856. Now, when he began this, you see, so there is another phase of his life. Having begun this, that means worshipping Bhavatarini in the temple, he was putting his whole soul into it, in that puja. But that is not all. You see, the question came to his mind, is there any truth in this? Does the Divine Mother really communicate with the worshipper? Does he talk? So, for that, he began parallel to his puja duties, you see, meditation and prayer, mostly, you see, outside the view, in the great your forest which was there in those days, outside the temple in that your area. So that is his life. And not only that, he had already heard, though he was not a scholar in the ordinary sense, but he was not devoid of this wisdom which is there in those books, because he is to listen to them and take the essence. So from that he knew that renunciation is necessary. You must give up everything in life to get that which is the source of the universe. You see, that he was sure. So one after another, in his own way, he was giving up. You see, so giving up so much that finally he took, you see, being a Brahmin, he had in him ingrained also the pride of Brahminhood. So at the dead of night, you see, very secretly, he would enter into the latrine of a scavenger and wash it with his long hair, which grew during those days. You see, wash that and pray to the Divine Mother, Mother, take away the, you see, trace of pride from my heart. So he was giving up everything, you see, so that his prayer to the Mother becomes, you see, one-pointed and deep, you see. So these things he was doing. It is not only by people say that he did puja and then he got. Surely he did puja. And even in the puja, you see, the charama final step is Atmanivedana. You do all this worship, you offer, etc. Puja, what is puja? You know that puja means that you imagine the divinity as an honored guest in your house. And after the preliminary purifications, you do to him those things which in an Orthodox house even today people do. In that sequence you do for the time being. So that is, but finally, you see, the last phase, it is surrender, totally surrender. So that puja he was doing, and he was relishing it, but it was not sufficient for him. You see, he wanted more. You see, if God is there, he must, if there is something, long years back, Ramanuja talked about Archavotara. Archa means the idol you worship. That is called Archa. And there is a special descent of Godhead in the Archa. If you do worship correctly, you say God is everywhere, but there is a special presence of God in that, you see. So Ramakrishna verified this again and again in this. Thereby, it is hard to say, thereby proving that what the second commandment of the 10 commandments is declaring, that is not correct. You must not bow down before any representation of God. You see. So, but popular Hinduism is this. Hinduism has got many facets. It is not simply puja, but popular Hinduism is puja. You see. since the collapse of the Vedic yajnas, this has become the dominant mode of worship among the Hindus. And there's a great, India. Ramakrishna was born in 1836. A generation before this Atmiya Sabha, Brahma Samaj, etc. was inaugurated, and they were highly criticizing this aspect of Hinduism. Apart from the hierarchy of privilege in the name of caste, this was another thing they were saying. That primitive, polytheists, idolatrous, all these things are Hinduism. And this was, so he validated in a very special way not only his Thapakaya Dharmasya, but he validated Hindu Dharma in a very special way. If he is correct, if his life is there, then this is not correct. I'm talking about second commandment. So anyhow, his sadhana one by one. In the beginning, almost without any guru, he had one guru just before that, from whom he had to take an initiation to be able to do puja to Bhavatarini. Because his family was Rama Upasaka. They are Upasakas of Rama. And here this is Kali. One is the Vaishnava aspect, here is the Shakta aspect. So for that, he took an initiation. But it is not a real guru thing. It is just a ritualistic thing. You must have initiation to the... So he had that only. But simply through prayer, through his meditation, through his tremendous yearning, 3 years almost. We do not know exactly how many days, roughly 1100 days. 3 years means that, day and night. Then it happened. He was out of agony, he was trying to shear his head with the sword of Kali when it appeared. He had this experience and he fell on the ground but that is a very big event because he has obtained a rope to, pull God. So from that, this is very important. And then I have said that his unusual was his birth, unusual was his karma. And the next, when he began to behave very abnormally because of this God intoxication, then like all mothers, his own mother thought that maybe a marriage will cure. He used to call him Keshta. His own mother used to call him Keshta. So, when he was a child, Gadai, but then when he grew up, he used to call him Keshta. So this Keshta, to bring sanity to Keshta, he arranged for the marriage. And that also is unusual marriage, When he learned from the mother that mother was very, sorry that nobody was agreeing to give their daughter to this madman. So he went into a divine mood. In that he said, it is futile to search for a bride here and there for me. The bride for this place is already reserved in the house of the Mukherjees at Jairambati. This is what he said. It is highly unusual. That means it is by this marriage has been, the Ghataka is God. Is God himself is Ghataka. So that was the marriage. You see. Then he came back again and he was his own self. When he was 25 years, you see, just shortly after his anniversary, 25th anniversary, this Vairavi Brahmani came. And Sri Ramakrishna asked Hridaya that there is one nun there, you ask her to come to this room. And this nephew was very, you see, he was very surprised that he had never behaved like this. So anyhow, so the nun came, and she was almost a 40-year-old lady. Here was a 25-year-old man, God and certificate, and she declared that, you see, she had received the command that she had to initiate, guide 3 people. You see, so here on the bank of the Ganges, she was searching, you see, so she discovered. And then for Ramakrishna it was a godsend, because all people around were talking about insanity of Ramakrishna. And he himself certain times also thought that maybe I have become, I say, I am worshipping too much, praying too much, and Mother has brought this insanity to me. Yeah. So there is no sleep, you see. So he related all these things to him. And then the lady said that you are not a mad person. You are not a mad person. You see, this thing happens to God-intoxicated people. It happened to Radha Devi. In the Vaishnava books it is written. It happened to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So this thing is happening to you. And then, under the tutelage of this lady, for long, by Ramakrishna's standard is very long, almost 30 months of sadhana. Different types of, you see, Tantra, if you read the Serpent Power, the author of Serpent Power is saying again and again that Tantra is nothing but reaching Advaita through practical means. And that seems to be quite a correct description, you see. So for different methods, because the lady was a master of Tantras. You see. So there are almost, they say that 64 books on Tantra. Through all these, you see, paths, she was guiding Ramakrishna. And Ramakrishna had innumerable kinds of realizations which are not known to us even. Some of them we know, some of the special realizations, but many others are not known to us. You see, during this 30 months, you see, it was a long period. Of course, she also guided Ramakrishna in the path of Madhura Bhava. You see. So even while this lady was there appeared this sadhu from Haryana, a naked Advaitin from Haryana, Totapuri. And Totapuri, you know, you see. After 3 days, you see, Ramakrishna said that he cannot concentrate on the impersonal. As soon as he tries to concentrate, his mind Mother Kali appears. So he said to his Guru, it is not possible. Guru said, why should it not be possible? So he took a piece of glass, broken piece of glass, and with that, in the Agga Chakra, he put a deep dent and said that on this pain you meditate. And Ramakrishna achieved this. Then he locked the cottage as he was waiting for. When after 3 days, there is no response from within, so he opened and found that he is still in meditation. That means absorbed in this highest kind of samadhi, which is called nirvikalpa samadhi. There is nothing in the field of, mind. This ordinary mind does not exist there. There is no vision, nothing there. Ordinary mind is set aside. You see? So it is that state. So then he, with his yogic method and Hari Om, etc., was rubbing his backbone to bring him back to the consciousness. And himself was surprised that for him it took 40 years of sadhana to achieve this. And this boy, so soon, he had it, you see. So this is his life, you see, major. There are minor sadhanas, many things are there. For example, Jatadhari, again with the child Ramakrishna idol, you see. So he again proved this Archavotara thing, you see. This child Rama is to talk with him and he is to feed him, he is to chastise the boy, you see, as parents do. So it is like that. Then after all these things, you see, he had a Sufi guru, a Hindu turned Sufi. Govinda Rai was his original name. He turned Sufi, he came to Dakshineshwar. So Sri Ramakrishna, you see, took him as the guru. It is Sufism. When we talk about Sufism, you see, it is like Hinduism. If you say that he is a Hindu, we understand that, you see, he follows something, you see, tradition of India, you see, that much. But what he or she exactly does, we cannot know, because it is highly ramified. Similarly, when you say Sufi, it does not mean much, except that it is a kind of mysticism, it is a kind of they are very tolerant, etc. But what he exactly does is, you see, you cannot know. It depends upon the guru. It is highly different, you see. So the guru, the Sufi guru, there are many, many gurus and they do it in various ways, you see. For example, the Naqshbandis, they do a kind of practice which is almost the imitation of Patanjali's system. Without saying Om, they will say Allah, etc., but the steps are the same almost, you see. So there are various types. So what exactly Ramakrishna, you see, was taught, we do not know exactly, you see, that's Sufism. But your Saradananda says in his biography that at the end his mind was, you see, absorbed in Saguna Brahman, which means Brahman, that means in ordinary simple language, in the aspect of God, who creates, who sustains, who destroys the universe, that God. And from there, his mind, you see, went to the stage of Nirguna. See? And not only that, he had a vision of a person with grave countenance, and he had a long beard, That's all. You see, we do not know much about it. You see. So that was his. So by 67, that was 1867, he was then 31 years, he had finished, you see, almost everything, you see, in Hinduism, plus this Sufi path. You see, then there is a gap of 7 years when we do not know much about it. You see, a person who was very early among his disciples to come to him. You may call him a disciple or rather an admirer, Captain Vishwanath Upadhyay, the agent of the Nepal government in Calcutta. So he used to say that he has seen him before the coming of these disciples. And most of the time, he used to be silent and self-absorbed, certain times for days. You see, so the 7-year period, then I say we do not know much about it, except for certain of his going to different places, etc., that much, you see. But your inner life, we do not know much about it. But then, from 1874, we have good knowledge about what he had been doing. 1874, he had this. You see, again, an Archabotara, the Madonna. He was in front of the Madonna, both the child and the mother became alive, it is, and they began to, you see, send rays of light. And that, you see, affected him. From Jadu Mallik's house, he, you see, walked to the temple. And for 3 days, he was meditating on Jesus. And at the end of the 3rd day, he had a vision of Jesus. And Jesus appeared and was slowly coming towards him and entered into him. It seems that he had also a vision of the apostles, because he would say that I have seen Sharat and Shashi, his your would-be disciples. I have seen Sharat and Shashi in the circle of Jesus. That means it seems that he had a vision also of the apostles. You see. Anyhow, so this was his sadhana. And then from the next year, that's 1875, somewhere, either in the beginning of 75 or towards the end of 74, he again had a kind of divine command. You see, command was this. You see, it was he says, himself describes, that he saw Keshav Sen, you see, like a peacock. With most probably the head was a human head, and with his wings spread, and the little peacocks were, you see, they were disciples. And Keshav told his disciples that you should listen to what he is saying. It is all vision, spiritual vision. Then to ask the Divine Mother, why should I talk to anglicized people? And the Mother, she made him understand that in the Kali Yuga it would be like that. Even anglicized people, you see, will have access to this kind of knowledge and wisdom. You see. And then himself, you see, he sent Narayan Shastri to go to Keshav Chandra Sen and report to him. You see. Narayan Shastri gave a good report. Then he himself went to see him, uninvited. Only 4 miles from his temple, he went by a horse carriage. You see, he was camping. It was a spiritual retreat, and there, uninvited, he went. Nephew Hriday was there, so he went to Keshav and said, "My uncle is here. you see, and he's a God-intoxicated man, and you talk about God, you meditate upon God, he wants to see you. May I bring him here? Keshav gave permission. It was morning. Ramakrishna came to Keshav, and seeing him, he said that I find that your tail has dropped. You see, they all laughed. You see, they thought that is a madman. Keshav said, don't laugh. There is a meaning in it. So he asked Ramakrishna, what do you mean by that? Then he explained that when the tadpole, you see, loses its tail, it can be in water and also on the bank. You see, so you are in such a stage that you can be in yoga and also in bhoga. You see. Then talk went on, hours and hours. Singing, samadhi, explaining, hours. They forgot their food, they forgot their bath. You see, the whole day passed. And then Keshav Chandra Sen, who was highly anglicized, not only anglicized, he gave a call for Indianizing Christ. He said that India's only hope is to accept Christ by Indianizing him. And not only that, he went further and said that this British government has been, you see, sent by God so that India would be in the arms of Jesus. So any kind of your nationalistic movement is, you see, is a blasphemy, kind of blasphemy. It is a revolt against God. So much. So this person, you see, was completely transformed by Sri Ramakrishna. From 75 to almost the end of 83, all these years. And through Keshav Sen came most of his would-be disciples. You see, you please tell me, when should I stop? You see, it is time to stop? Okay. So that was you see, so he is moving by this. Never such great souls, they, you see, plan like that. They depend on divine command. You see. Even his disciple, your Vivekananda, the great things in his life always depended upon God. Going to America, from America coming to England, you see, for all these things, you see. So here you see this thing in play, and then through Keshav Sen would come the most glorious part of his life when he would inspire these young boys. Naren, Rakhal, Tarak, you see, all these boys, you see. The greatest among them is Naren, you see. And at the same time, there was another thing, wife, you see. She trained the wife, you see. You have, this morning someone was singing, Tapasi brahmachari cha yasasya sahadharmini, you see. So, she was walking the same path. And not only that, in a sense, she is also a disciple of Sri Ramakrishna, but in another larger sense, she is another form of Ramakrishna. Yes, she is another form of Ramakrishna. You see. So, that is the great life, you see. And Naren, there would be Vivekananda, you see. After great, you see, he tested him, you see. He tested him during his life and also after his passing away. He was testing him in many ways. And then he accepted. You see. Then he accepted. You see. So he accepted him fully. Yeah. So that's why, in one biography, Isharud reciting that he doubted for us. That means on behalf of us. Thank you for your patience. Namaste. Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.